What's good, YouTube? It's your boy KNeutron. We back at it again with a crazy reaction video. So as you know, we got a wild game that's releasing soon called Wuthering Waves. Now, if you haven't seen any combat of it, this game looks absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. The characters, fire. The gameplay, fire. You can even turn into bosses and use some of their abilities against other bosses. What? So yeah, I gotta react to it and get some content on the channel for it. You already know. So we're gonna be reacting to this video, which is titled ironically the best MMO I've played in years. Wuthering Waves isn't an MMO. But let's see why he says this in the title. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It's your boy KNeutron. Let's react.
Over the course of 2023, I came to the realization that I was playing MMOs less and less. Not because the
I
MMOs
agree. I definitely agree. It's been a lot more games coming out that's just been able to keep that gaming loop going like MMOs like used to be able to do, because MMOs have so much content that players can just like keep going multiple ways, different things. But so many games out there nowadays that you could do the same thing without having to be in the MMO.
currently available were bad by any means, but because I'd conquered everything there was to conquer, nothing felt fresh anymore, and I found no motivation to log into and play the MMOs that I'd loved so much. There was nothing new to accommodate that feeling of emptiness I had whenever I'd open the launcher for WoW, Final Fantasy 4.
Prime example right here. The hitboxes just look so crispy.
Feeling of emptiness I had whenever I'd
just looks so crispy.
Open the launcher for WoW, Final Fantasy 4.
Yo, and the combat, like, she just turned into a big ass spider. Who does that? Like, what MMO is out there where you could almost do that? Like, come on, man.
This led me to seek other games in other genres to attempt to satiate that thirst that I had for difficult multiplayer content with large open worlds to explore hidden wonders around every corner. The last few months have arguably been the most fun for me in over a year due to the number of fun genre-defining game releases that took the gaming sphere by storm. Palworld, Enshrouded, Helldivers 2.
I think all three of these games were really, in my opinion, games created by gamers. You know what I mean? Like, games created by developers that understand what the gamers really want. Helldivers 2, nobody thought it was going to have the success that it had. Oh my gosh, but it's a great game. Palworld, nobody even knew it was coming out. And it blew everybody's mind. Enshrouded, now that game, they knew what they were doing. For you being able to jump right in and being able to play co-op right away, fire. And I don't really know too much about Enshrouded, but I know it's a good game.
All monolithic hits that absolutely nobody saw achieving the overwhelming success that they had. And while I have played all of them, especially Palworld.
Yo, look at that combat. Hold on.
Overwhelming success that they had. And while I have played all of them, especially Palworld, probably more than I should have.
Palworld's game loop is actually really freaking fun. Really freaking fun. I don't think that they make it super difficult, but I don't think that they make it super easy. You know what I mean? Like middle ground to where you could just enjoy yourself. You have some difficulty, but you have some form of, you know, ease to the game to where it's not hard to get into, but you know, it's not a challenge.
There's one game that has given me exactly what I wanted out of an MMO, and the worst part is it's not even an MMO. Yeah, you heard that correctly. The best MMO that I have played in years happens to not even be an MMO, but it has all of the MMO tropes and features that make MMOs so enjoyable to me. Before I delve into what game this is, why I feel it's as good as it is, let me take a moment to thank my incredible patrons over on Patreon who allow for me to continue to do dedicated videos like this every single week. You guys are phenomenal, and I cannot thank you all enough for the support. Wuthering Waves is a large-scale open-world anime RPG. For those of you that have been with me for...
See, he just turned into one of the enemies.
Wuthering Waves is a large-scale open-world anime RPG. For those of you that have been with me for a while, you know that some of my favorite MMOs are anime MMOs. Soul Worker, PSO2, Closers.
I really think PSO2 didn't do well on the launch, and that is probably the reason why it isn't as popular as it could be. I would say it could be. I won't say as it should be because Sega did a lot of bad things with the game as far as, doing things that players really wanted. Phantasy Star 2, man, that game was good, but Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis,
Critic of life. My most anticipated MMOs of the last decade were Puria Chronicles, Blue Protocol, and Tower of Fantasy. I played the first closed beta for Wuthering Waves, and I thought that it definitely looked good and played even better. I felt as though it was severely lacking as a game. Inferior multiplayer, absence of world content. I almost feared that we'd get another Tower of Fantasy, all looks, no substance. However, over the course of the last week, I've been glued.
And I played Tower of Fantasy. I think the combat was okay. It wasn't too bad. It just didn't hold me like most games could. Like Punishing Grey Raven, which I'm getting into just because of Wuthering Waves being released really soon. It's really freaking fun. Really fun. The game loop of Punishing Grey Raven, chef's kiss.
To the game, playing it for several hours at a time. There was something unusual about it that just captivated me. I know the immediate sentiment is going to be, but isn't this just Genshin? And I would totally understand you thinking that way, I truly would. But this game is so...
See, I really think that I feel like I'm a little too late to get into Genshin. Just because the fan base is absolutely huge now. The characters... It's so much lore to each character. Each character has memes and different things that are going on with them. I feel like it'll be so hard to get into as a new player. That's just my honest to God's truth opinion. That's me personally.
So much more than just Genshin. Beginning the game, you don't get to create your character, which is a staple of the MMO genre. That's a little bit disappointing, is being able to customize the appearance of the avatar that you'll be inhabiting for the foreseeable future adds depth and layers that help you grow attached to the world and its story. But you'll quickly forget all about that when you see the extensive selection of husbandos and waifus that you can recruit.
That is true. That is very true. Playing Punishing Grey Raven, I did kind of get into the game like, I kind of wish you could have one character where they could have everybody's abilities. But going into the game and seeing that you can play as multiple different characters that have their own specific abilities, which most of the time the abilities of each character really fits their personalities. Not gonna lie to you. Like Lee Hyperreal, man, fire. It fits his personality perfectly.
This is a gacha game, and I don't typically cover gacha games on this channel. I do have a separate channel for that. Being a gacha means that you obtain the vast majority of your characters through either real money purchases or earning currency in-game. Character models look better than any other anime.
So and here's a question. If that's considered a gacha, being able to either get your items from currency in-game or through physical money, obviously I know it's multiple other games out there that's like that, but if we're talking about a successful game, would Warframe be declared a gacha? Even though it's not even anime, but hey, I don't know.
MMO, past or present. The sheer detail that has gone into crafting absolute perfection is unparalleled, and I don't foresee MMOs having remotely comparable character models for a long time to come.
And that's because Wuthering Waves is stylistic. I mean, it goes with the anime style. I mean, you really can't beat that. Especially when it comes to being able to improve your graphic fidelity. You just have to continue to follow your art style and just improve upon that with shading, lighting, different sorts of that. I mean, I don't know. That's just my guys' honest opinion. Just because many other MMOs try to go with like the realistic route, and a realistic route, in my honest opinion, makes it a lot harder to go with, just because you have to go with so many fine details.
The fluidity of their movements, the smoothness of their actions, especially in combat, the interactions that you have with the world, wall running to get the higher ground, gliding to cover long distances, parkour that allows you to run up, grapple, and nimbly navigate around or over obstacles like rooftops, ledges, cliffs. All of these features are missing from modern MMOs. When playing Final Fantasy XIV or WoW, the world exists as a means to get from one area to the next.
Oh, that's kind of cool. I understand it's a minuscule detail, but if you can see how you have to hit that statue.
Fantasy XIV or WoW, the world exists as a means to get from one area to the next, to provide you some pretty locations while navigating to the next point in the story. There's very little to see or do. In Wuthering Waves, there are secrets around every corner, farmable materials that you can use to upgrade your characters, treasure chests providing you money, gear, items. There are trails to follow that lead you to rewards, dungeons to clear, bosses.
See, and that's the cool part about it, is like they're just hitting all the right aspects. They have all the right green flags. All the right green flags. Now, the scariest thing to think about is, because of the hype of the game and how much hype they're having, what are the possible red flags?
To kill, side quests to ignore, do. The world feels like it's alive and filled with purpose and meaning. That doesn't mean that there aren't hubs and that the world doesn't propel you from point A to point B for quests.
And I think some games actually need that, especially for the casuals, because a lot of people may get into a massive game and just be like, what is going on, if they don't have a system to kind of show them where to go.
Is very much the case. Some quests, especially side quests, are very reminiscent of what you'd find in an MMO. Kill X monster, X item, farm X flower. The story, which is an issue that both Mrs. Sticks and I had in the original beta.
Bro, just being able to transform into like different monsters is so cool.
Has been completely overhauled. It's faster, it's less cluttered, less convoluted, more concise. It's dark, a little messed up, and most importantly, a strong contrast to what we're so often presented with in MMOs. If I asked you to name 5 MMOs with a really good, very compelling story, I bet you'd give me maybe 3. Final Fantasy XIV,
yep.
Sure. Guild Wars 2, yeah, okay. Maybe Star Wars,
Okay, Final Fantasy XIV is known to probably have one of the best storylines in all of MMOs. Guild Wars 2, with you being able to just go around and create your own story, that to me is up there as well. I just think that we kind of have to see how Wuthering Waves plays their story. Just because I know that in Punisher and Grey Raven, I know that I keep referring back to this game, but it is a game that is made by the same company that is making Wuthering Waves. I just know that Punisher and Grey Raven, they do have storylines for each character, which to me personally, I think that's tough. I really think that's tough. And honestly, that gives it more of like an anime feel more than anything to me.
Republic, maybe the secret world. Part of what makes an MMO so captivating to me, that allows for me to truly become enthralled in its world, is its narrative. And Wuthering Waves is very much a narrative-driven game. Now, I haven't progressed nearly enough through it to really give a thorough analysis of the story. Neither has my wife, Mrs. Stinks, but we're enjoying what we're watching, especially the character stories. Much like an MMO, Wuthering Waves features characters that function more or less like classes. Fist fighters, gun...
And that's probably what makes it like okay, you know what I mean, is each character can really be seen as a class. Because even in most MMOs, now that I think about it, most MMOs have specific classes gender locked. Or not even gender locked. They could either be gender locked or race locked. Like, depending on what races are in said game, like, you know, maybe even Elvins only being like a sorcerer. And in games like gachas, they really don't do that. If they make that character is that character, it's the class. I mean, it relates to some MMOs. I mean, you don't have too many that, I mean, hey, who knows?
Fighters, sword fighters. Numerous characters utilize the same weapon type but have unique abilities that allow for them to feel different, making it seem like there are a multitude of builds tied to the visual appearance of your character. Every character has their own personality. Some have really large personalities. Some have personalities that even go as far as...
I gotta burn some calories.
Oh, no way.
You are unworthy to see my face.
I am the strongest!
is explaining to us how gravity works. See, and people said playing video games can't be beneficial to your... with extra...
That's crazy.
Characters have their own backstories, their own unique chapters to play through, providing you a lot of insight into them. Once more, allowing you to grow attached to your comrades.
And see, that's what really adds to it. And I think on Final Fantasy XIV aspect, they included so many characters with different storylines that you can connect with a character that you find mostly relatable. If a specific character wasn't relatable, you didn't connect with that character. So whereas in some players that did connect with that character may have one reaction to, say for instance, if that specific character dies, you may not have that, but that's something that games, I think, should start incorporating, regardless if it's a side character or if it is a main character in the storyline. I think that they should start building the relationship with those characters, even if it's big or small.
Adding additional depth to an already fairly deep game. I thoroughly enjoy how gearing works in this game. In traditional MMOs, you spend hours, days, weeks, months grinding the best in slot gear, only to replace them during the next patch, which keeps you in this repetitious cycle that just never ends.
Yep.
Because when you finally achieve that moment where you reach the maximum item level, it's immediately lost with new gear to obtain.
Yep, because it's a new item that you can
dislike
get. Yep.
Gear treadmills. Thankfully, in Wuthering Waves, there are two ways of gearing. On the one hand, you have a weapon. The weapon you can farm, then once obtained with the correct stats and substats, you'll never need to replace. Then, there are echoes, which are special versions of the monsters that you fight out in the world. These include base monsters, or rare bosses. You defeat them, you throw a pal ball at them, and then attach them to a character as an extension that enhances them.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Imagine being able to do that in an MMO. You just finished defeating a boss that took you over 50 tries. You throw out a ball and now you can use whatever ability that you died to, like, within those 50 times as an ability that you just want to use on the regular, casually. Imagine that. That's actually tough.
They provide beneficial stat boosts, max attack, HP, crit chance. They have bonuses for equipping them, and some of them even function as an ability. That can heal you mid-battle, that can AoE down dozens of enemies. There is so much purpose to a significant portion of what you can do in Wuthering Waves, from the random flower you can find out in the world that you might need for a quest or to upgrade a character at a later date, to the chest that might give you that last bit of XP you need to level up.
And see, that's what I really think that, like, is so important about this game is, like, they've incorporated things that are important to the character. Each thing that's incorporated within the world may be important to the character on one system or another system. And I understand the game may not even be out yet, but just the simple hype on the game right now, man, it's crazy.
All of this without even discussing combat, which is arguably the best combat in any gacha game, with the single exception of Punishing Gray Raven, and better than any current anime MMO, better than Soul Worker, better than Closers, better than PSO2, better than Blue Protocol. The dodging, the parrying, the fluidity of the movements and abilities, everything feels so absolutely flawless. I've never experienced combat like this in an MMO ever, which is probably more sad than it is exciting.
And he has a point. He has a point. Because with these new games coming out, or not even new games coming out, or just games being out that shows the level of combat exploration that a specific game can do or a developer has done, makes you look at one game that you may like and just be like, why? Why don't you do this? Why can't you do this? This game did it. Why can't you do it? Why? 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 Why do we not have a game with the graphics of actually I'm gonna revert back that statement. I was gonna say, why don't we have a game with the graphics of Elden Ring and the combat of PGR? But on another sense, that's just Devil May Cry.
Because even in terms of MMOs yet to release, there just isn't a single game coming that has combat this fun or functional. We could hardly compare this to an MMO if it were a single-player RPG, though, right? Wuthering Waves is multiplayer compatible, allowing several players to all group together.
And I cannot wait for that. I have already told all my homies, I already said, you need to be pre-registered for Wuthering Waves. I know you don't know what the game is, but once we get on it, you gonna find out.
And pursue a common goal. I played the original beta test cooperatively, quite a bit of it. Some of the bosses were just too overwhelming and difficulty to tackle it alone, and I've been told the bosses in this test phase are equally as competitive. Mrs. Sticks and I are close to unlocking co-op, and I'm hoping to this weekend, but being able to do all of the above with another person, with several other people, with a world filled with content to consume that rewards grouping up and tackling content cooperatively, that is what an MMO is.
Yes.
And that is what Wuthering Waves does. Wuthering Waves, even Palworld, Enshrouded, Helldivers, they're all games that would do so incredibly as MMO. Well, with the exception of Helldivers.
Maybe not Helldivers,
they feel like an MMO and promote the same sense of wonder and cooperative necessity and reward as an MMO. And while I'm incredibly excited to continue,
and I do think that if Power was an MMO, it could have success. I agree. Enshrouded, we already know that's a definite yes. Helldivers 2, maybe not, but it could. It could. Because I don't know if many of you have heard about this one game, but there is a game called PlanetSide 2, and that was a FPS MMO. Just saying.
Continue my journey in all of these games, I'm currently obsessed with Wuthering Waves since it is finite, and there is an end to this beta test inside. So, I need to enjoy it while I can, because it won't be releasing until later this year, in theory. Now, don't get me wrong, 99% of gacha games are not like this.
Yo, that combat
it's a safe bet
is
to
fire.
claim that 99.9% of gacha games aren't like this, which makes Wuthering Waves all the more special, and me all the more excited to play it when it launches. I truly hope MMOs can learn from what Wuthering Waves and all of these multiplayer games are achieving, because if they don't, and we continue to get the same boring, repetitious, non-innovative games we've been getting for years, I wouldn't expect there to be much of a genre left. Now, if Wuthering Waves is not a game you're at all interested in, though, absolutely no problem. I got you covered with...
That was a W video. I'm definitely playing Wuthering Waves. If you guys aren't playing Wuthering Waves, I don't know what you're doing, man. I mean, you just got to check out the combat. You got to check out the characters. You got to check out the graphics. It's so fire. It's so fire. These companies, like, out of country, out of America, are absolutely crazy when it comes to making games. They know, like, well, not all of them. Not all of them. Not all of them. Some companies, certain companies, like Kuro Games specifically, they know what they're doing. They're making this game look absolutely fire. I'm definitely going to check out Wuthering Waves. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It's your boy KNeutron. We're going to be back with another video. Go!